hope you're all already. I'm happy to greet you at the 7th youth webinar within the movement of European Rural Parliament Youth. I'm glad to see new faces here and I just counted that we are from 5 countries: Latvia, Czech Republic, Slovakia, North Macedonia, and Belgium. If I'm right, Sara, are you from Belgium?
I'm from Romania. I forgot to mention that I just wrote in the chat right now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
So 6 of them or 7? 7, right?
Yes. No, six. There are you, me, and six more people. Yeah, as I said in the chat, I'm Artis from Latvian Rural Forum, and our organization is the one in European Rural Parliaments network that organizes activities within the youth pillar, and the youth webinars are one of them. As well, in November, the beginning of November, we will gather in Spain to open the second European Rural Youth Parliament, and I see that some of this webinar participants also will be joining there. Firstly, I wanted to let you know about some technical aspects of this conversation. You are allowed, of course, to ask questions and to talk, but I invite you to mute yourself when you're not talking, so we don't have any background noises. And I might do it as well. As you already experienced, there is a chat box on the right side of the screen where you can ask questions there if you don't want to say them out loud, or you don't have microphone or anything. And let us know during the webinar if you're experiencing any technical issues. I will try to help you with that. And also, this webinar is being recorded, and it will be published on the YouTube channel of ERP Youth, and I hope you're fine with that. Yeah, so today's guest of us is Sara from MIJARC Europe, as she introduced herself. And the topic today is digital citizenship and e-participation. I guess with no further ado, I invite Sara to take the stage and to carry on with the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Artis. Hello, everybody. The organization I come from is MIJARC Europe. It's actually an umbrella organization. We have many member organizations from European countries. And every year we approach one theme that we make our activities based on. So this year for us, the theme was youth participation and citizenship. So we had 3 main parts of this year on which we worked on the theme. So the first one was local activities. What we did was to have 2 representatives, like 2 MIJARC people, to say it like that, who would travel in different countries and would have a local activity with youngsters there and local authorities. So for example, in Romania, so I can say, we had a girl from Germany. Her name was Camila, and she came in a small village close to the Otopeni airport, about 50 kilometers from Bucharest. And we had over there the local activity with youngsters from secondary school between 10 and 14 years old. And there were also 2 local authorities who joined our activity. And of course, we had some discussions about what actions should be made to improve the quality of the life in the community, how youngsters need to be encouraged to participate in the decision-making process, of course, with the tools they the tools that are available and are suitable for them. So of course there are many possibilities in which youngsters can and should, and of course at the ultimate, at the ideally level, must be involved in their community. So this was the first part of our work plan for this year. So we had these local activities in all the countries that the organizations that are members in MIJARC Europe are from, and this was held in the first trimester of the year, so between the beginning of the year until April. In April they were all done, if I'm not mistaken, yes. And then the second part was a seminar on participation, youth participation. So it was held in Bulgaria. We had numerous participants, and we had a trainer that would help the workshops and would launch the discussions and the debates and so on and so forth towards the participation. So this was about simple participation, just the youngsters being involved in their communities at local, regional, or national level. And afterwards, the last part from this theme was the digital participation. And for that, we had a training course in Belgium on e-participation. And we had there two trainers, of course, the think tank that would help the activities. So what we did was to create a comfortable medium for the participants, starting easily with defining the participation, the traditional concept of participation, and then slowly going to discuss about e-participation and the realities of participation and e-participation. So we talked about e-information, e-consultation, e-decision making. We had parallel workshops about email scamming and fake news, and the last one was about my reputation into an online medium. We talked a little bit about the internet governance, why it is important and how we can get involved and in touch with it. The e-participation tools, so just was I was telling you about e-consultation, e-decision making, and e-information. And we did some visits in Brussels. We met with the we met with he's like part of the external Ministry of External Affairs, and he's like he's giving consultation on data security, data protection, and we went to meet him. So yes, he was an expert, a parliament representative. Dirk van Eekhout was his name. And after we met him, we also met a representative from YFJ. And we had 5 working days. For that, we also met via Skype. Sorry, I will come back to that in just a minute because I want to take it chronologically. Yes. We made a field visit of an example of digital democracy project, how it should look like, how to build one step by step. And we also had a field visit in with local and regional authorities, and we talked about how they use e-participation tools. In the end, as we were coming to the final day, we shared a little bit about how we can make a difference by ICT, and we talked about the stories of people, individuals, or just organizations who built their cases on e-participation or via internet. And from there on, we had a session about how we will pass it forward, meaning that each participant in their delegation, they made up some follow-up activities of implementing the knowledge they gained in the training course. So overall, this was like the training course was the most with the most input on digital participation to youngsters. There was a lot of interactive sessions. There was a lot of debate. Very little, maybe just 1 or 2 sessions was held in between the delegations, but most of them were divided so that people get to work with some people from other countries, as most of them were in their first, some of them, maybe not most, just some of them were in their first Erasmus project. And if you have any questions for now.
Yes, I do have a question. Can you tell a bit more about those digital democracy field visits? What were the examples you saw there?
Yes. Just one moment, please. Yeah, so for example, when we met with an expert on Skype, she showed us how a site was built just for like e-consulting with people. So there were made some questions, for example, that were approaching or not necessarily the interest of EU citizens, and there were the possibility for you to just register and take part in the e-consultation by voting and by expressing your opinion towards the vote. So why you agree or disagree with what it said. So this example was presented to the participants, but also some more on the same field, which was consultations. So they were shown also the website made by the European Commission for e-consultation, in which it was the same mechanism. So there was public or private way of getting involved and voting. There were, of course, public questions, public approach topics that approach general interest for and general interest subjects, topics from European citizens. And you could have voted privately or publicly. And then if you felt like to start a debate or just add a comment, you could have done it publicly.
Thank you. So this is one of the ways how youth can get involved in European level decision making, right?
Yes, yes.
And did they shared how what is the participation of youth in this e-consultation tool? Are they is that something new they're just implemented, or they're already running it for a while and a lot of youth is getting involved?
So for example, some people were into this field of digitalization, meaning that they had they gained a lot of knowledge from IT, as they were IT students. So for some of them, these methods were familiar, and they knew about them. But for others, it was new, and they claimed they did participate in a local regional level, but not so much in digital medium. So
Do
I
you
would say that
do you see it as a good opportunity to participate?
in a digital level, yes, I think it's a good opportunity, and it can inspire the people not only to take part themselves, but also to be the ones launching the problems, let's say, or the questions, or simply being the ones who direct the decision-making processes. So, for example, another way to just participate, we talked about social media as well. And for e-consultation, there are many politicians that use Facebook Live in order to start a debate. So for example, they start a live stream and they approach the problem or the topic they want to discuss about. They present their position towards it and their plan, and then citizens are asked to express their opinion in the comments. The politician reads the comments and comments on them. Of course, maybe he doesn't have the possibility to do it with all of them, but he does it. So we showed example with because I was working on e-consultation. We showed the example of a Romanian politician who does that very often. He's mayor of Cluj, so of course he has many live streams of this kind, and citizens are very pleased with this method. They're very participative, they're very active on his page. So when it's announced on the news and something is going to be implemented, or a project was rejected or accepted, or it's going to be launched, people are very active on his page and quickly going to watch towards finding a new live stream that he will start. So this can happen as well. Yeah.
If anybody else has... Oh, there's something wrong with the sound. Sorry. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I will keep asking my questions. I wanted to ask, did you came up with any threats which might be there if digital participation is promoted and practiced?
Sorry, can you please repeat the question, Artis?
Sorry?
Could you please repeat the question?
There's some problem with my sound. Maybe you can... I will mute your microphone because I have because I think I'm hearing myself within your microphone. So I muted you, and I will unmute you. Did you came up with any threads that there are promoting or get involved in digital participation. Any you mentioned security on the internet as well as uh, literacy, understanding the news and everything. So the uh, cause of digital participation.
So I couldn't really understand because the connection was quite weak. So maybe it helps if this time I will ask you to write on the chat the question, because I could not really distinguish what was told. Okay, can you hear me well? Okay, so I will answer the question. Yes, we did talk about the pros and cons of digital participation just before we started our parallel workshops. So, of course, safety on the internet is a very big issue nowadays, and I think it's an issue that is going to raise. We talked about the raising powers of the hackers nowadays, and of course, data protection security. So, during our workshops, we of course tried to encourage young people to get involved in digital participation, but being aware of this problem. So we presented them, we talked about the safety on the internet, or even the Wi-Fi, the wireless connections, that the public ones that can be a threat to your data, even though it's not that obvious as just like, for example, on phishing on the internet could be more obvious, but nowadays the methods of data stealing are becoming more efficient and more hidden for the public eye. So also, of course, with the data protection expert, we talked a little bit about this as well. The participants were, of course, very curious about how him and the people he's working with, they deal with these digital safety issues, because of course they are using a lot of digital in their work, and that they have to have their measures of protection. He would confess to us that whenever he has a meeting, or what people do and what people are recommended to do are just to take away their electronic devices and put them in another room, because it's a real and obvious fact nowadays. With any social media sphere, your device is very powerful, maybe more powerful than you. Every time you sign up on a channel, or you create an account for yourself, whether it is like Google or Yahoo or just Facebook account, or whatever is medium, you have a lot of agreements that you have to confirm. So there are many policies. It's a huge list of them. To every time you have to carefully read them and be aware of what you actually sign up as you agree for before, because many dangers are just expressed. So for example, on many mediums, you are being informed that your microphone is turned on every time you are using that medium. So that means, in other words, that you have a big chance to be recorded, even if you are not using necessarily recording setting, right? So for you, simply being available on a medium, I'm just giving an example without necessarily naming one, but there are several. I think there are the ones we most operate with on our daily life. So you have to be careful that your microphone could work even though you're not using it. So just simply having your phone on the table and browsing or not browsing, the simple fact that you install the app and you agree with the terms of conditions allow the app to control your device from the inner mechanisms and to influence the external situation, meaning that can be just recording or filming or being able to just use the camera without filming. So yes, of course, it's a thing that I personally believe it's a starting point when you approach the digital participation. This is the of utmost importance to be the thing that you start with being careful that you acknowledge all this information, being careful that you are aware of what is transmitted to you, being careful to all the terms and conditions that you use, and most important, to create for yourself a small, let's say, lecture on the well-known dangers of the internet nowadays. So that can mean from email scamming to viruses and ads to fake news, if you want to approach it from this side as well. Yes.
Thank you.
So yeah, you're welcome.
I wanted to expand this, saying that one of the topics we will be talking about with you do. Uh, do you hear me now?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I don't know, maybe there was probably a internet connection, but what I wanted to say is that um, to expand what you just said, I hear that digital participation is very useful tool for people to get involved. And one of the challenges we'll be talking about within the one of the challenges we will be talking about within the youth parliament is improving the infrastructure of and transportation. That includes um, making public services for rural youth and same things you just said, consider the aspect of safety, and maybe that's the issue we need to also raise, and that's an issue which has to be discussed in political level, as discussed in some way, that these companies and the mobile apps. Is it better now?
Yes, but in
Okay, I'll try again.
yeah,
Do
so
you
I heard everything until the one of the questions we have in the youth parliament.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. One of the issues and questions we will be talking about in the youth parliament in November is improving the infrastructure of broadband technologies and transportation networks. And as you told, it is a good tool for people who are not being able to participate face to face within debates, to express their opinion, and that's an opportunity also for rural youth. But also hearing what you just said about the safety. Um,
Yes.
that's another issue which has to be raised, that those mobile apps, for example, has to be limited within how they approach our data and so on. But this is a debate. I guess it's also being discussed in a political level, but that's a thing we can also talk about within the youth parliament.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, for example, in Romania, as there is a very big representation of the population who lives abroad the state, politicians have been wondering whether they should or should not create an electronic system of voting. And of course, there was a lot of pros and cons from the civil society on that. And one of the issues raised was over the security and transparency. So I think it's kind of difficult now to speak very enlargedly about broadband transmission techniques because I personally feel that there is not enough assurance from the power holders, like the stakeholders, that the digitalization is following a safe line, right? So for now, for very big and important decision-making actions, let's call it this way, maybe you could notice there's not going on a process there. There's not the process of initializing these techniques did not start yet, maybe for these reasons. But I think there's a lot of improvement in the digitalization sphere at let's say low level. So, for example, in what consists of information consultation and decision making, but it's not taken to a higher step. So, for example, a higher step could be electronic voting. I think it's still under some sort of discussion. I think the process it's still perfectionating, let's say, improving in order to assure, because of course you cannot convince citizens to make an approach until they feel safe enough, right? So there are very little dangers on so the dangers are different from one process to another, let's say. So I think for what's made public and for what is under the eye and under easily verification on online, I think the dangers are little. But when it comes to private information, secret information, there is still sort of, people are still not very up for signing up for this, right? So they're a bit reticent, they are a bit reserved about this, but also the experts are a bit reserved about this, because maybe it's, for the moment, it's still under an improvement process, I think. And I don't think that people would want, like decision makers would want to launch something that doesn't gain the trust of the citizens, because if something happens and it's proved that this is not safe, so taking the example of voting, I think that there would be a sort of catastrophic situation for the digital participation, and maybe the whole process would be compromised. So for now, I think that it's very important for people that they get informed as much as possible towards the measures they should take in order to be safe and protected on internet. Nowadays, the most valuable resource, maybe, I mean, it was very surprising to find out the most valuable resource nowadays is just data. So in order to come forward and to get into digital participation, you do have to make at least a small research on how to protect your data. So digital participation, it's not like a big monster that you should beware of, but you have to come forward very informed about it. So I think it's just like traditional participation. You have to have some, as well as you have to have some information towards that. You have to come informed. You have to come acknowledged. I think is the same for digital participation. The dangers with the digital participation are, most of them, the people, the hackers that are hidden. So from this point of view, you have to know who your enemies, potential enemies could be, who are the ones that could potentially steal your data or could potentially hack your computer in the worst case scenario and steal everything you have. So from this point of view, you have to be informed. From this point of view, just like in a real life participation where you are given, so for example, if you go voting and you are given the list of voting and you have to read all of that, but before coming to the vote, you have to read how the voting system works. You should do the same with digital, right? So always check the websites that you are on. Never randomly click on ads. Be careful on what emails you receive. Be careful with your passwords. Be very careful with your financial accounts. Do not use the same passwords for everything. Things of this kind that seem very simple but can actually make a big difference. Because from the point that you are, for example, if you have like a Trojan horse there's mostly nothing you can do about it. So there are very simple things that you have to acknowledge, but that can make your difference between you being secure on the internet, or you, let's say, not being not secure, not being in a dangerous position, but just being vulnerable. So you have to make sure that you remove all the vulnerabilities that can come forward on the internet, right? So as I said, it's not too difficult. It's not the dangers are usual, just like the transparency in the traditional participation. It's the same. It's the same with the vulnerabilities on the digital medium.
Yeah,
So
thank
I
you.
think if everybody, yes, you're welcome. So just one last thing. The only thing that you have to make is just do a very small research, or where are you right now? On which website are you? How does it work? Read the terms and conditions, and that's it. Of course, you have to come prepared, but never afraid, or never how to say, reticent, or just not opened towards it, because you have to be opened, but you have to be informed.
Yeah, thanks for explaining these simple actions we can take to ensure our safety within the digital participation.
You're welcome.
Um, do anybody else have any questions here? You can feel free to just unmute yourself and to say it out loud, or you can also write it in the chat. I hope everybody heard this.
Maybe I can ask a question. How many participants were there in the project? How many of them were included?
Including the think tank, it was between 20 and 25 people. At the training course, yes. At the training course with the Let's Go Online, it was called. So there was about 19 participants, if I'm not mistaken, just the participants themselves. 19.
And from how many countries?
So they were from 10 partner countries, from 10 organizations. So if you want, I can name them to you. So we had Belgium, we had Germany, Romania, the Netherlands, Bulgaria, Armenia, Italy, Spain, and Portugal. And the last organization, the last partner, was MIJARC Europe. Of course, the applicant organization, MIJARC Europe.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe Sarah, before as we're getting closer to the end of this webinar, maybe you can tell us how we can follow the activities of MIJARC Europe and how we can get involved.
Yes, it's a pleasure for me. So you can find us on Facebook, MIJARC Europe. It's our Facebook page, but of course you can all the time keep in touch with our opportunities, with our activities, with our commissions, because we just created 3 commissions last years on agriculture or on participation. With our publications and visibility on our website, which is mijarceurope.net, from network. So I can put it for you on the chat, but also for the people that will watch this recording. Yes, MIJARCEurope.net, it's our website. MIJARC Europe, it's our Facebook page, and on Instagram, if I'm not mistaken, we are just MIJARC Europe in a single word.
Thank you. And also, can you share how we can use this digital consultation tool you mentioned in the beginning of your story?
Yes, if you can give me a few moments.
Okay, meanwhile, I will use this commercial break and tell about how you can get involved in the rural youth parliament movement. I also invite you to follow European Rural Parliament's Facebook page. Also, you can follow the Latvian Rural Forum Facebook page, where we quite often post news about activities you can take part in, and you can follow this page in order to see what are the outcomes and the news from the European Rural Youth Parliament, which will take place in November. I see that there are participants from the potential participants, but there might be some other people as well. So I will shortly explain that we will work on 5 main challenges, 5 main rural youth challenges, and we will make the declaration of European rural youth, and this declaration later will be presented in Brussels to MEPs as well as to European Rural Parliament, with the 40 countries involved in their national rural networks. And so within these webinars, we try to get to know many topics which might be connected to the content of the youth parliament. Last time we talked about sustainability, about environmental issues, and this time it is digital participation and security which comes with that. So feel free to follow us everywhere and be updated.
Thank you very much. So, for example, the European Commission consultation page that I was talking about, I can tell you the link to it. It's ec.europa.eu/info/consultation_en for English, right? This I can also put in our chat, but for people to find this, or you can simply type it on Google, and I think it goes like European Commission consultations. Let me just check if you can find it like that as well. Yes, so European Commission consultations, it should be the first result, consultations European Commission Europa EU, right? So as I said, ec.europa.eu/info/consultations_en for English.
Thank you, Sara, for sharing this. Do we have any other wonders and any other questions from other participants? This is the time you can ask them. Okay, if there are no other questions, then I would assume that everything was pretty clear, and I would say that you provided us with very useful information, starting from practical tools, how we can get involved, both in European level as well as national level. And it was nice to hear your opinion about digital online election. We can all discuss this within our minds, how that would work. Maybe the average turnout would be higher. What would be the safety measures taken? And also thank you for giving those useful tips how we can be safe on the internet and protect our data. And in general, thank you very much for being able to participate in this webinar and sharing your story and your experience.
Thank you too. It was my pleasure, and I'm honored that we had the opportunity to speak here, that MIJARC Europe was invited, and it was very nice to meet you all.
Good to hear. Same for me, and I invite you all to get updated and join our next webinar, which will be on at the last Tuesday of October. We will inform you about what will be the next topic, but I believe it also will be very exciting discussion. So I think we can say goodbye to each other now, and maybe meet at another online event, or maybe in real life at some kind of youth activities.
Great. So goodbye, everybody. It was nice meeting you, and stay updated on what the next webinar will be, as I will do myself.
Good. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Monica.